Clear. Thanks, John. See you later.
I'm Ted Tippin with Tennessee Flying Machines, Chief of Maintenance at Sparta Upper Cumberland Regional Airport in the William G. Tippin and Willis Emery Tippin Memorial Hangar. I actually took my first flight whenever I was 6 months old in a J3 Cub. Dad fixed some way to put a car seat in the front seat of Cub, and so I've been flying since I wasn't even able to walk yet, but I was already flying. And Dad is actually a A&P mechanic, and my uncle, my great uncle, is an IA. So I trained under both of them to get my A&P, and then to move on to getting my IA for all the maintenance. And then I've also got all the way through my private license just to fly, any airplane that we want to. Soloed in a J3 Cub on my 16th birthday. My second airplane was a 152, but then once I got back out of doing just my private stuff, I immediately moved into flying the Warbirds, flying the Stearman, and then into the T6 after that. Okay, so Tennessee Flying Machines is we have a full maintenance facility, so we will work on anything. We also are a restoration facility, but we specialize in radials and warbird and antique aircraft. And we also have a ride service, a air tour service, and we can actually take people out for a little joyride in the Stearman, the T6, and the Decathlon. And we also have a flight school based out of here as well. And we have a 150 that we use primarily for doing private and just getting people all the way through to, their solo and everything. Right now, the chief of flight operations is actually Sarah, my wife, and the chief instructor right now is my dad, with Aaron Tippin. So we met here at this airport, and we actually took a ride together in the Stearman was the first time that we actually met each other. I took her for a little ride in it. And then she is the chief flight operations, but she also has her uh, private and her instrument and her commercial. And then she's about to get her CFI as well.
With the stars and stripes and the eagle flag. There's a lady that stands in a harbor for what we believe. And there's a bell that still echoes the price that it costs to be free.
My dad is a country music singer, and he just had a passion for aviation. And he actually used to fly many years ago whenever he was younger. Before he became a singer, he was actually on track to go into the airlines.
I think he's spoiled. I don't think he's going to go back to his other aerobatic planes.
You think he's going to give up that whole music gig?
I think he might. After this, yeah.
Oh, this is one of the most incredible moments of my aviation history. I got to fly with Patty Wagstaff. That was awesome. It was good enough I'm getting to ride in this extra, but you know, I didn't think I'd ever get the chance to do that, but we saw each other 2 days ago out on the tarmac, and she said, "Hey Aaron, come on, let's go for an airplane ride." So I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'll be more than happy to."
Aaron was great because he loves aerobatics, and he's done aerobatics, and but he'd never been in an extra. And when you take somebody up in an extra for the first time, they're just blown away. So we went up there, and and I'm always very cautious. I'm like, "Okay, are you okay? Would you like to go back now?" He's like, "No, bring it on. Let's do more."
Patty, she's incredible. I mean, it's to realize, you know, she put me through her routine while we were up there. And I'm telling you what, that is grueling. That is grueling. That'd be grueling on a 290-pound bodybuilder. I'm telling you, it's tough. And that little old lady back there just popping that airplane around like nobody's business. I can't describe it. I mean, she is just an incredible aviator. Hey, and she's at every major air show all around the country. She's great.
And then the singing thing kind of picked up after that, and he kind of dropped off. But after he got back into flying, he just kind of became a semi collector. So we've just always had antique and warbirds and radials and all kinds of airplanes. Ready to Rock, there's actually that video. One of the main centerpieces of it is actually our another Stearman that we used to have.
Well, I've done it every way they say it ought to be done, but if I can't be me, well, it ain't much fun. So I bowed out, said I gotta go, gotta crank it all up, I got to free my soul. So it's back to my roots, and starting today, I'm ready to rock in a country kind of way. Ready to rock all night long. Hey, ready to rock till the cows come home. Well, it's the same old me, so don't be afraid. I'm just ready to rock in a country kind of way.
My little brother is a up and coming singer. He's living in Nashville trying to just make it as a, you know, doing the songwriting and the singing thing. And then he has his private as well. And on his 16th birthday, he actually soloed. He beat me a little bit. He soloed in 3 airplanes on the same day. So he soloed in the Cub, the Stearman, and the T6 all on his 16th birthday. So my uncle Billy is a very accomplished IA, and that's William G. And he was the one that actually kind of got us all into the love of doing the maintenance side of it. And then Willis E, is my dad's dad, so he's my grandpa, and he flew in the for the Air Force, civilian flight instructor for the Air Force, training cadets for Vietnam. They were mostly in T-28s and Tweety Birds. Uncle Billy was the chief test pilot. So whenever an airplane came out of maintenance, he was the first person to go get in the hot seat. He'd go fly them around and come back down and tell them what was still wrong with the airplane. Right now, I maintain all of our airplanes, and then I also have about 15, 20 customers ish, maybe a little bit more, that come back to me regularly. And it's a mixed match of everything, all kinds of airplanes. Got some Beechcraft, Piper, Cessnas, but the thing that really is the most fun and the most enjoyable is working on the warbirds with the radials. I just enjoy working on a good radial engine and working on those old, Stearman's T6s, T-28s, all those airplanes. If you want to stay in the warbird community, they are extremely vital, just due to the fact that there's not that many of them around anymore. And really, you see the same group of people everywhere you go that are part of these organizations. And without them, a lot of times you can't work on them, or you can't fly them, or everyone's always got little tips and tricks that really help. Like there's a lot of stuff nowadays, that parts and things that you just can't get anymore. And the guys at the with NATA, and the guys with all the other, with Warbirds of America and all that, you can network and find whatever. Someone's always got what you need, or they know somebody that can make it, or they can make it, or you can always find help. And that's a main thing with these airplanes, that you always need. The T6 is probably the airplane that has the most still flying warbirds. Like we saw at Oshkosh, what was 2 years ago, whenever they had the massive T6 anniversary. And you see all these guys, they've known each other for years, and the airplanes change hands, but everybody always knows the airplane. They know who used to own it, or they know who worked on the airplane. You can't hide in the warbird community, that's for sure. I run a very tight and neat and clean facility, and I also run an extremely time sensitive facility. So whenever someone brings me a project, or they bring me an airplane and they set a deadline, I try the hardest I can to meet that deadline, which to a lot of people is very, very important, because they always want to go on a trip, or they always got to have the airplane at the next event. And I strive myself in keeping everyone flying in a timely manner and safely, because we don't cut any corners at all. If it's something that should be done, and some people would put it off, we don't. I just fix it whenever it comes up. An annual on an airplane like a Stearman is actually, it takes more time to do an annual on a Stearman than it does on a T6, just due to the fact that on a Stearman there's so much fabric and so many things that you can't see very well, and you have to crawl back in there as far as you can and try to check everything out. The most common things on a Stearman are typically people get scared with a ground loop or something like that, and you end up with a lot of wing repairs and a lot of wing tips and things like that. That's the most common thing that is an incident that's not in a typical annual. But everything else is pretty straightforward. It's usually a lot of motor inspecting and work. That's what usually takes the longest, just due to the fact that you got to, check everything over and make sure you don't have no major oil leaks or any fuel seepages or anything like that, and going through all the fittings and lines and hoses. That's what ends up taking you the most amount of time. On a Stearman, typically about a week turnaround if there's no major squawks that need to be fixed, if there's not any major parts that have to be ordered. So far, it has not affected us that much, just due to the fact that the people who have airplanes and have the funds or the opportunity to fly airplanes, they usually can. It didn't hurt them as bad, and so it didn't slow it down that much. It slowed it down a little, because you can tell some people that just have like a little 172 or a little 150 that they just kind of come out and joyride on the weekends. You don't see those people as often, but the people who use them for flying for their business or the warbird community, those guys, they can't afford to not have stuff fixed on the airplane, because it'll end up costing them more in the end anyways. We always attend Oshkosh and Sun and Fun every year. Those are two that we never miss. And then the local fly-ins around here and the air shows. Smyrna's usually got a pretty big one, which is pretty close to us. And whenever they have those, we always block that off. Anytime something's close by, but Oshkosh and Sun and Fun are two long trips in our warbirds, and they are the trips that we look forward to the most. Eventually, I hope to do stuff like that, like if someone wants to do a restoration after a crash, like if somebody, say, wrecks a T6 or wrecks a T28 or Stearman or something like that, I would love to eventually move my way into doing full restorations, not just on wreckages, but also on aircraft that are just aged, that guys want to go through them fully. Walt Frickies, the guy that runs Veterans Airlift Command, he has a Stearman that has a 300 on the front of it with the 300 Lycoming with the enclosed cowling. And it's a beautiful, beautiful airplane. It's not painted up warbird colors. It's painted more antique colors, but I really enjoyed working on that airplane. It was a beautiful airplane to work on. The Stearman's actually my favorite airplane to fly, just due to the fact that I have a lot of history in the airplane. Um, it was the airplane that I took my wife for our first ride in together before we got married. And then we also took pictures in front of it for our engagement photos. And also I proposed to her with the airplane. So I had the airplane sitting on the ramp with some candles and a little sign and stuff. And it also was the airplane that we were supposed to fly out of a field that we had whenever we got married at the end of our wedding day, but the wind was not cooperating. So the Stearman that's behind me is a 1941 Stearman that the Pete Jones at Air Repair actually assembled in 2002. And they actually built it from almost all either leftover parts from the military or from parts that were in storage that they had acquired. So they built the airplane on pretty much nothing but a data plate. But it is painted up in a Navy paint scheme. And so it would have been the secondary primary trainer for Navy cadets for World War II. We enjoy a little getting, upside down, doing some loops and some rolls and some barrel rolls every once in a while, getting a little crazy in the airplane, pushing it to its limits. And the Decathlon is one of the airplanes that's on the ride service, but we primarily use it and bought it to just hone our skills in flying. Just because if you ever get yourself in a situation that you don't think you can get out of, and you know what the airplane can actually do and what it's capable of, it makes you feel better about your own skills. But the Decathlon is a great airplane for doing primary aerobatic training and also doing gentleman stuff. But it's a very, very nimble and fun airplane to fly. So if you come in and as a customer with our ride service air tour, you would be expected to find we have a 30, a 45, and an hour-long ride in each airplane that you can pick from. And you can pick any of the three aircraft that you want. And we have a 25 statute mile radius from Sparta that we can fly over. But we have lots of waterfalls, a beautiful lake, and a few little great mountains and valleys and rivers and things that we can fly over. And it's beautiful country to just go for a little joyride and knock off your bucket list that you got to ride in a warbird. We're about 40 or 50 miles as crow flies east of Nashville, of B&A, of the big airport. I just love for y'all to stop by and come see us whenever y'all can. Like he said, whenever y'all are on your trip down to Sun and Fun, I'm sure you'll about have to fly right through here. And we have about the cheapest gas around and one of the nicest airports in the state of Tennessee. We have the longest runway of an uncontrolled field in the state of Tennessee, and I think we're in the top 5 or 10 longest runways in the southeast of a non-towered airport.